Hello and welcome back to module number 6. The overall theme of this module is about the idea of the connection between PHP and MySQL. MySQL is a way of storing data on the web, and I'll show you what it means. However, because we are left with only 2 weeks until the end of the semester, and the August 5th is your deadline for the final project, this module will not have any assignment. However, I still want you to work on your final project because it will require you to work harder and provide you understanding of what we are trying to achieve here. So the idea here of this module is the idea of connection between PHP and MySQL. But before I will move on to the connection or the theme of this module, I want to go over the final project. And the final project in this class, you're going to create not one page, you're going to create several pages where, for example, the subject I've chosen, because this is something close to my heart, is the idea of a farmer's market. And so the farmer's market usually entails showing apples, and you can buy the apples and or any other type of fruit, and you'll be able to that the farmers will be able to deliver it, and that's where he will be able to profit from his hard work in the farm. So the idea here is, again, not one page, but multiple pages that you're going to display and show in your website. Look at the examples that I showed you in the past and try to make up your own story or something that you will be able to display in order for you to make better impression, not only a resume, but actually working website that you think the design and the technology behind it support your idea of for the job. So this is my 5 seconds take. Please ask question, otherwise I will not know how to help you, and I'm here to help you to make it your final project something that you'll be able to show and present before others. So back to our module and back to where the objective. So the idea is that HTML form in PHP, like we did the last time, a form can be converted into PHP. The issue with the form in PHP in comparison to HTML is that the variables that are inside the HTML form can be called post and get, and be able to handle it by assigning or to convert this information to the database. So in this case, where is the PHP come into play into the HTML is the form action, the form that allowed us to make the connection or to be able to receive this information to Intel and pass it to the database. This is the idea. This is the idea of the form in HTML, and usually a lot of companies use this PHP form in order for them to connect to a database. And so, a good example of a welcome PHP, and then the welcome.php will send this information or convert this information in order for you to do that. So there is the issue of validation, and something that is often used. And again, the issue of PHP with the $get function is the idea that you can send this information with regard to how it applied. And again, with the welcome.php, you see that if the user send this information, this is how it will be submitted, and to apply to it with regard to the idea of a get function. Again, I want you to be familiar with it. I want you to see the difference. In post function, it is a different method and it's more secure. it means that it does not transparent to the user who sent that. So again, I'm using the welcome.php, and the idea here is that in that case, I am applying, and it will go, for example, what's your name, what's your address, and try to send it to the welcome in order for it to send it to the MySQL. I know that I'm flying here. I will post example on the canvas in order for you to have better idea what it is entail, but it is not required. So again, it's up to you to see what works for you and if you understand that. But again, the idea of never trust user input is something that is really important, and it's usually the regular expression or the built-in PHP function that allowed us to do that. So again, the idea of if there is a problem that the user does not want to give or does not tell the truth, we can clean it up or try to do that in the way that will make it more transparent with the idea of the database and how to apply and test to see if it works. Test it. The PHP will not work on your browser, on your desktop. It will only work on the server. You will need to post it on the server and then check to see if it works. And I will give you the codes and everything else, so you will have more confidence in the idea of the entire thing. I want to talk about a little bit about the database, that why your professor was so insistent in the idea of a database. One of the things that he allowed us to do is to create MySQL database. What is the idea of MySQL? Is that you can create a table, and if you are not familiar with the table, I will try to show it again very fast how to do that. I already created a database, and I will try to give it examples so you will be able to follow. I will call it test for the summer, if I will spell it correctly, and I will create a database. So this is something that is going to be transparent into it. So this test summer or summer, it doesn't matter. And now I'm going to go to the PHP in order for it to edit. I'm going to edit to create a table, and I'm going to do test summer, the same name as I did, and he will ask me how many columns I want to have. In this case, for example, I can say I'm going to have 3 columns. So it will give me the idea of type of data I want to input into it, the value and everything else. So example name, example last name, and age. Those are the things that usually entails text. Last name is usually text, and age is usually numerical value, and it will allow me to have. But the database on MySQL also asks you the length of you allowing the user to store into your database. For example, first name is usually no more than 5 words. So if I will give 1 to 6, that will limit it if someone has a longer name. It's a problematic. The same goes to last name. Last name, usually it's longer, and so I usually give 1 to 10. And age, we want age between 18 to 99. So those are the things that we need to be concerned with when we are generating the table into our final part, into our database. And I'm not going to go over that because again, it will cover too many things. I don't want to put so much pressure on you. So I'm going to go over that just for a review. Don't be concerned if you do not understand or do have problems. And one of the things that he will ask, if it's a no, no, and you will need to establish what type of it. And if it is no, what it means. I'm not going to go over that. It is part of what I have planned, but right now I'm not concerned about that. It can be fixed. If you want to create a database that connects, that will be great. Just make sure that everything is correct and everything is apply. I will post more information about that. I want to go back to the idea of connection between the database and your application or your website. And so the database, as I did not define yet, it is the ability to store your information. For example, your address book is a form of database, and each row in the database is called a record, and a field are the individual categories of information stored in the record. For example, a recipe, food recipe in database include ingredients, cooking time, temperature, and so on and so on and so on. So those are the fields that usually in food database consist of. There's different type of database, rationale database, and those are the primarily concerns that when we are using database, this is something that we are really concerned what type of database we are using. And when we are using rationale database, which is usually consists of one or more related tables, allowed us to create a relationship between those two tables, which is something very important. Why? For example, if you are creating a database for your recipe and you can connect, for example, the people that visit your website into a rationale database, that will make the relationship between the type of users and the type of recipe they're looking for. So we are looking at more in-depth understanding of your user in order for you to do that. We have type of tables, again, part of the rationale database. And again, this is something that I should have passed, but because of the time, I'm going to skip it. I want you to have understanding what is a primarily key, what is a foreign key, and try to understand why is it so important. The issue with a database is the query that allowed us to retrieve this information from the database, or add or modify or even delete the information from the database. So MySQL, why did I'm so obsessed with this idea, is that MySQL is an open application for database, which means that it's not Microsoft or it's not any other private company that will charge us just to store information into it. So you can install MySQL if you will be in the position to decide what type of database you're going to have. MySQL is my recommendation because it is it is a simple, even can be a complex database, but it is based on structural query language, which is a standard for database. I said in my PowerPoint we will work on PHP my admin, but we will not do that. I'm just going to go over that in principles so you will understand what it is. In the end, I will show you how to write in HTML using PHP to test if your database is connected. So you will be able to see that the PHP recognize the table that you created or the MySQL database in order for you to do that. So the idea is the connection of MySQL from PHP is what made me decide that this is the language we need to learn. So the idea here is that the biggest strength of the PHP is the ability to access multiple databases. So with the strong support of MySQL. So MySQL and PHP work together quite well in order for them to communicate, as I said. I will not demonstrate the connection directly. I will just go over that so let's begin with the connection. So make the connection in order for you to form the database. We will work on configuration. However, zero website does not allow us to manipulate or to write about the configuration PHP. This is where you're going to set up yourself with the connection. So I will not demonstrate the PHP, the configuration page, but they already embedded that into the website and they don't give you access to it. So the connection, I'm going to show you the code and I'll try to explain to you what does it really means. So the first code is the connection to your database. In this case, I'm going to call it localhost. Why localhost? Because you are hosting your website that you are having is a local host to the server. So the local host is that where it connects, and the idea is that you're going to give your username and password, and I'm going to write an if condition that if it's not connected, it will show us a error message why it did not connect. So you need to know, in this example, you need to know, hold on just a second, I'm going back to you need to know your MySQL address, you need to know your username, and you need to know your password. Otherwise, you will not be able to do this code. So the idea here, this is how it applies, and it will give you the host name, or will give you a number where the host name, username, and password in order for you to do that. Again, this is the first step. This is the first that the connection is be made. The second step is using the PHP MyAdmin page, which is PHP MyAdmin. And you can see the PHP allowed us to connect to the database. So again, this is where we can create the table, and you can see it allowed us to do that and allowed us to apply to the connection itself. So if you will create a table, you can get a table name, and again to see if it makes the connection. So database, I call it database name, and in this case summer test, and it will say, oh, okay, I did not recognize the connection and I was not able to connect to your table, and this is my answer. So again, this is where you need to know your database name and your username and password in order for you to do that. Step 3 is a little bit more advanced. It is the idea of doing a query into the table. Example, if I had 400 people who registered into my database, I can make a query in order for us to find what I'm looking for. So you need to have the name table, you need to have what are you looking for. Are you looking for specific name that they enter, or are you looking for a specific field that you enter? Those are the questions that usually when you are creating a website that allows user to search a database, those are the questions that usually entail. And in the end, you want to put the data on the page, and this is where you're going to see it. In step 4, you're going to see the result. Again, this is the issue of something that I don't require you. If you are interested, I will be more than happy to share my knowledge on the subject, so you will be able to do that. But it's up to you. You need to decide how you're going to design and what type of technology are you going to use. The last step is to close the connection. You close the connection to MySQL in order for you to not to make the page be forced to close down. So this is something that you will encounter. One of you always complain that connection is sometimes, example, Facebook sometimes crash because there's so many requests going on. So if you leave it closed, the connection to MySQL, it can be cause a problem, because this company is not Facebook or it's not Google, and so the connection might be a problem for them because it costs money. So again, this is something that we are doing in order for them to avoid problem. We are trying to close the connection. So in this PowerPoint, I allowed what is the entail, how to do that, and how to apply to that. This is it. That's all my notes about this connection with MySQL. What I want you to do is to have a page in your example that you show that you have the ability to have a connection. Don't let the user connect to do search, but only make a connection. If you can, that will be great. If you cannot, that's also great. I don't care. As long as you will be able to have a website in your final project that consists of more than 5 pages, and one of those pages will be PHP, I will be very happy, and you will see the progress that you made to the final in this class. So that's it. That's all my notes for today. I hope you enjoy it. Please ask me any question you want, or how can I help you to make your website project good and strong, so you'll be able to present that. That's really important. Until next time, I hope you enjoyed the class. You will hear from me in my modules, in my announcements. Until then, and don't forget to evaluate and give me feedback of my teaching. Until next time, have fun.